Hey everyone, you may be wondering, wait, Bitcoin is up 88% in the last 12 months, but it's also down 18% from 5 weeks ago when it hit an all-time high at $109,000 per coin. So what's up with that and what is the right price? And the answer is nobody knows because nobody knows the right price for a stock or a bond or a commodity. It is all based on the laws of supply and demand, which is how much supply is there, how much demand is there. In the case of Bitcoin, the supply is fixed at 21 million, which means it's a function of only demand. With every other asset in the economy, it's a function of supply and demand because the supply is not fixed. For example, on average, humans dig about 2% more gold out of the ground every year. So let's say we're sitting on 100 tons of gold in the world. It's higher than that, but pick a round number. If there's 100 tons of gold above ground, this year, we'll dig out 2 more tons of gold, 2% more. Now, the numbers are all way bigger than that, but the point is, with gold, we dig about 2% more out of the ground as compared to what we already have. Bitcoin doesn't work that way. No matter how high the price goes or low the price goes, there's only ever 21 million Bitcoin. So it's a function of demand. Well, what determines demand? What determines demand is the degree to which the human race wants to use a money that is better than the ones we already have. Gold does not work very well as money for all the reasons I've talked about in other videos. The fiat currency, which is government made money, which is paper money that's backed by nothing, does also not work very well as money. I mean, it certainly works to buy a coffee or a Big Mac or whatever, but it loses between 4% and 9% of its value every year, which sucks. Like, why would you use the money that is plummeting in value so quickly? So you really can't use money as a long-term store of value because it deteriorates in purchasing power too quickly. So Bitcoin does not have that problem. It is a new form of money that is digital and that has all of the properties of an ideal money. It is durable. It is portable. It is authenticatable. It is divisible. It is verifiable. It is scarce, with scarce being the most important characteristic. So the price of Bitcoin is a function of the demand for Bitcoin because the supply is fixed. Or you could say it's a function of supply and demand at a given price, with the supply not being new Bitcoin, but the supply being Bitcoin that people are willing to sell at that price. So with the price right now at 89,000, that means right now the buyers and the sellers are meeting at 89,000. There's the same number of people buying and selling at 89,000. That's been as high as in the 90,000s yesterday and as low as, 87,000 earlier today. It's all a function of supply and demand of buyers and sellers because there's not a way to just go dig up new Bitcoin other than Bitcoin miners, but they bring so little Bitcoin per day to the market that it really doesn't affect the price much at all at this point. 1 second. So what is the right price? Well, all of the Bitcoin in the world is worth about $2 trillion right now, but everything in the world that you could buy or sell is worth about $900 trillion right now, which means Bitcoin is about 1/500th of the value of the other stuff in the world. And all the money in the world, which is called M2, M as in money, two as in that's the number they use, like two, like the number two, M2 money supply, which is a broad measure of sort of how much money is sloshing around in the world economy, is somewhere, I believe, between 90 trillion and $100 trillion. So Bitcoin is only about 2% of the money, and it's only about 1/5 of 1% of all the assets in the world. Long term, I believe Bitcoin will be a radically higher percentage of both of those numbers. I think Bitcoin eventually will be the largest money in the world because it is a global money that is not controlled by any one country or company or individual. It is a global currency, which means it's not just competing with the US dollar for dominance. It's competing with all world reserve or all world currencies of any kind, meaning the total sort of swimming pool to swim in is, Bitcoin's 2 trillion out of more like 100 trillion if we just use round numbers. But there's a huge amount of money in stocks and bonds and real estate that would be in a better asset if it could be in a better asset. People just don't understand Bitcoin well enough to understand what it is, how it works, and all of that. The vast majority of people in the world, something like 95% of the people in the world, own zero Bitcoin because they don't understand Bitcoin. Almost nobody who understands Bitcoin doesn't own a bunch of it because once you understand it, you realize it's just way better as an asset class to own than almost anything else, or in my opinion, than anything else. Although some people would, I mean, I still own my house, I still own my cars. So, but I don't own that as an investment. I own that as an expense because I want to drive around in a car I own, not one that I'm renting from somebody else. And I want to live in a house I own, not one I'm renting from someone else. But technically, I don't really own those either because if I don't pay property taxes, the government will take them away from me. So they're only sort of mine. I'm just sort of leasing them from the government. As long as I pay property taxes, they let me have them. But if I stop paying property taxes, they take them away from me. Um, so anyway, so I believe long term Bitcoin's price, it's not a function of it's 18% below its all time high of 5 weeks ago, or it's 88% above where it was 12 months ago. Obviously, that's way more up as compared to down as of the last year versus the last 5 weeks. It's a matter of what is the global adoption of Bitcoin and what is it going to be in the future. And I believe long term, the total Bitcoin adoption worldwide will be radically higher. I mean, certainly 10x, but probably more like 20 or 30 times higher than it is now, which makes it the safest way, in my opinion, the most secure and most certain way to 10x, 20x, or 30x your money, because you can adopt a money that is better than any other form of money earlier and sooner than other people are adopting it. Again, the same is true if we use Amazon as an example. Back in 1999, when the price of it, the price of Amazon stock dropped between 1999 and 2022, or sorry, 2002, over the course of 2 or 3 years, somewhere in there, the price of Amazon stock dropped by 94%. The question could be, wait, what is the right price for Amazon? It's up a bunch since it went public, but it's down 94% from its high. Like, what's the right price? And the question is, what is the value of a global e-commerce giant that dominates the market? Well, we know now that that's multiple trillions of dollars worth of value. Obviously, money is way more valuable than one company. And right now, Amazon is more valuable than Bitcoin. So long term, I think Bitcoin will completely dwarf Amazon because the value of money far exceeds the value of a one company and its goods and services or whatever product or service they bring to the market. When you look at, in the case of Amazon, is e-commerce and that and a bunch of related services. So the value of Bitcoin is based on what is the value of having a perfect money for the world, and then how long does it take to get there? In the case of Amazon, between 2022, the lowest price they got, and right now they're up like a gazillion percent. I mean, in some bizarrely insane and unfathomably large growth rate from 2022 to now. But that took 23 years. Um, Bitcoin is 16 years old. It's only 2 trillion dollars as an asset class. It became a $1 trillion asset class faster than any other company or any other asset in the world. Here we are. It's still very early in the adoption cycle with the vast majority of people owning zero Bitcoin. Something like 95% of the world owns zero Bitcoin. So, the price should ultimately reflect the adoption long term. And I would argue that that should be far higher than the price today. And as the world adopts Bitcoin, that price will be far higher. So, there's no way to know what is the right price today. One metric that you can watch is the realized market cap, which is the price at which every Bitcoin in the entire Bitcoin ecosystem last traded hands. So it totals up every single piece of Bitcoin and what the price was that Bitcoin changed hands in the last minute, not the current price of Bitcoin, which is the current price of Bitcoin is just the very most recent transaction of Bitcoin. The realized market cap is, I believe it's as of the last week or two, it's been the highest it's ever been. Meaning more money, more people have put more money in Bitcoin than has ever been in Bitcoin at any time in the history of Bitcoin. And so by all of those metrics, Bitcoin is doing rock solid amazing. It's just down 18% from the all-time high, which puts it on sale. So anyway, but the right price is what is the value of the world's perfect money when all of the countries and all of the people in the world are using a standardized money in the future? And the answer to that is many times, dozens of times more valuable than the price of Bitcoin today. So you can still buy Bitcoin at a radically discounted price below $90,000 per coin today, and you can benefit from that huge, massive, radical upside as the world figures out how valuable Bitcoin is And as Bitcoin becomes the future monetary system of the world, you can own that asset and benefit from all that upside while all of the world is figuring it out, which will take all of the world, quite a bit of time to figure out. So anyway, hope all that helps. And if you have any questions, you can always text me anything to 601-207-0813. That number again, 601-207-0813. Or message me on Facebook Messenger. Just make sure you're chatting with the real me and not a scam account, because there are scam accounts that pop up from time to time. I have two accounts, a personal and professional account. One has my picture, the other has the picture of me and my wife. And I post virtually 100% of what I post is completely identical on both profiles. But anyway, if you're chatting, just make sure you're chatting with the real me that's actually posting real stuff. And obviously, I'm never going to ask you to send me Bitcoin or anything like that. I'm only ever here to help you for free on your Bitcoin journey. So if I can do that in any sort of way, message me or reach out. I'm always here to help with anything you can need. Thanks, everyone.